And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Yes, you're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today, so you got your backup quarterback in the chair. It is James DeJerome. We are committed to providing the same quality program you're used to listening to. You know, the thing about this Consumer Advocate program is it's all about you guys out there. We want to give you some knowledge, inform you, empower you, help you make better decisions when it comes to your own dollars. And to that end, I've assembled a great group of partners here today to talk a little bit about things going on in the Bay Area, in addition to our production team, which you don't get to see. We're going to peel back the curtain a little bit today and meet a couple of people from the back of the show, that people from the background you might not see or hear. Again, I'm the executive producer here on the Brandon Rhymes Consumer Quarterback Show. Mike Miracle is our board op today back there for Salem, keeping us sounding well. So when you listen to the program on AM 1380, you're listening to Mike and his work, and we always keep us sounding really good. Rob, of course, is right here to my left. He is our technician that keeps us looking fine on the television side. And I'd encourage all you radio listeners to search Binge TV Networks, if you could, Binge Networks TV, and look for the Consumer Quarterback Show. Get an idea of what we look like, meet all these folks, and get a chance to see behind the curtain a little bit the radio show on television, on the television side. So anyway, in studio today, we've got Fred Muth, longtime friend of the program. He was here before I got here, Fred. You've done a show before.
I was here before the wheel was invented. Are you kidding?
So it used to be different studios. Fred knows about our humble beginnings and seen the whole thing grow. So I wanted to make sure I had Fred today because we're going to talk a little bit about where the show has been and how he remembers it starting, because I wasn't here. What was the first memories you have of the show?
Not as good as I'd like them to be, because I didn't realize that I was on TV as well. I thought it was just radio.
Right.
And I was doing all kinds of strange things with my hands, combing my hair, whatever. And then halfway through the show, they had to inform me that I was also on the TV. I said, wow. I said, well, where's the TV? They said, it's only 14 million people watching you.
Right.
I got a little nervous at that point.
No, he is very smooth, folks. Don't let him fool you. He's relaxed and no problem with that. Connor Keller is going to be with us shortly. He's got stories that you would be surprised of all the things Connor has gotten into. We talk about coyotes and bats and bugs and every other thing in between. So I'm looking forward to hearing his latest adventures and what he's been up to. He'll be here in a bit. Fred, of course, with Tampa Screens and Aluminum, longtime friend of the program, as we've said, always talking about the in-between space.
In-between space is a term that Brandon coined.
There you go.
I'll tell you something. I used it again yesterday. They looked at me and they said, wow, we never thought of that. I said, neither did I. Brandon Rhymes did.
He is a salesman, all right. So he'll definitely know how to help you sell. Tampa Screens and Aluminum provides that ability to upgrade your property and get out and enjoy it. We're bringing Connor in here, and he's doing well because this state is all about bugs. They're everywhere.
Well, when he comes in, I'm going to ask him, please don't kill all the bugs. that would take the wind out of our sails, basically. He's a funny guy. We can talk about him. He's not here.
Right.
I worked a home show with him one time. And he put on his bee suit.
The whole beekeeper thing with the head.
Yes. And I couldn't get anybody in the booth until he put that on. They flocked into our booth. Just made the show. He's a funny guy. He's a great guy, nice guy. I like the guy.
His pictures, incredible stuff. He's climbing up trees. He's in a church, taking birds and pigeons out. I mean, you never know what he's up to. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about what's crawling around in our area this week. But back to Tampa Screens and Aluminum, Fred. We have Chris on the show sometimes.
I hear him. What a radio voice that guy has.
He's pretty smooth on the radio. I'll say that.
He's another good guy. He's got tremendous amount of sales in. They respect his knowledge. He goes back, I guess 15, 18 years or so, maybe more. And his father was very instrumental in the industry as well. So he really knows the nuts and bolts of screen enclosures.
But we were talking before, and I know that because you've been on the show a bunch of times, and we had a little while we were really fearing these tariffs, that they were going to impact you guys. It seems that you're still doing gangbusters out there.
We're still selling. I mean, houses. The prices of housing is not on a decline. The houses are still high, still moderately going up, depending on what the market is. The 250, 240 to 250 range, they're holding their own. They're not dropping. People are spending money on what they want. So the screen enclosure today, that's say the package is $10,000 today. I would tell people a year ago it was probably $800 less. And a year before that, it was $1,000 less. So yes, the prices are going up. Tariffs have affected our industry, but I believe it's more supply and demand of concrete. The concrete pricing continues to rise. The contractors that pour the concrete, they're in demand. And, of course, you see all the new homes still going up, so all them foundations have to be poured. So, consequently, the price of the material
Tons of new construction. We talk about a scarcity. People down here trying to find a place, and they have to pull the trigger fast, be ready because it goes fast. In addition, the flippers come in and want to make a modification. Boy, nothing like that in a screen room.
Yeah. A lot of the flippers will come in, and if the room is already there, they'll basically dress it up, because they don't want to spend a lot of money.
So you're saying leave the existing cage.
Leave the existing cage and dress it up. If there is no cage, and on a flip house, for example, I think most flippers would possibly pour the foundation alone and then try to flip it without putting the cage on or putting the enclosure on. Because in the industry, when you're flipping, obviously you're taking a distressed piece of property, and you want to clean it up, make it look good. Fix whatever whatever an inspector is going to catch is going to be bad, and then turn it quick to get the money. The screen room may or may not be an advantage for a flipper.
Okay,
you don't know if the flipper is going to get a return on that amount of the money. It's a coin toss. I'm working one right now with my brother in another state. And we would not consider doing that. We would consider putting more time and money into the actual structure of the property itself and making it look much nicer and tuning it up and bringing it up to code.
I got you. Sometimes has the design or materials changed so that you cannot renovate something that's been in a spot for a long time?
Well, if you go back 40 years, they had what they called the anodized aluminum product, non-painted. Anodized process is a way to make the material not break down over time without putting paint on it. It's an acid type product that they treat it with. So that material is no longer available, the silver anodized product. I mean, if you looked hard to find it, you could find an extruder that would make it and send it out and anodize it instead of painting it, but nobody would do that in reality.
Cost would be exorbitant.
Yes, it would. So the products that are out there that are silver anodized, that's not something that you want to try to dress up or fix up. Some people will attempt to paint them, which is not really a good idea. Back then, 40 years ago, where we're using a 2x4 or a 2x5 upright today, they were using 2x2s. So it's a much less strong product, and the wind load is much lower.
I was going to say codes, I'm sure, as far as wind goes, always something to keep your eye on in this state.
That's a fact. They used to use this 4-inch structural gutter that would clog up immediately. In today's world, it's 5 and 7-inch gutters, and all the beam spans. Back when I got into the business, you could span a 2x6 28 feet. That's not heard of today. Today, that 28-foot span would be a 2x8 or 2x9.
So all you folks out there thinking about it, or maybe you want to do something with the existing patio situation you have now, boy, Fred's got all the tricks and lots of unique designs. I know we've talked a little bit about some of the things that you've done without interruption visually, so that you can have panoramics and all the kind of open scene out your back.
Yeah, that's nice. But my job specifically is to paint the picture in the customer's head that is in my head, because I can see the job that's completed. And it really does take a lot of effort to get that point across to the customer exactly how it's going to look. You can describe it, you can send drawings, etc., but you can't see the finished product. And a lot of times a customer will say to me, I'm not sure about the pavers. What am I going to do about the pavers? My suggestion to them is build the room first, look at it, see how it looks, and then pick your paver product. Go on top of the slab with a thin paver. That way the whole visual is different.
I see what you're saying.
When you walk into a house, a spec house or whatever, you and I probably cannot see what our wives could see or our girlfriends could see. They have this whole totally visual difference. And when you walk into that property after it's completed, totally improved, it's nothing like you thought it would be when you first walked in, before it was finished off. So it's the same thing with the enclosures.
I tell you, I see some of the stuff you guys have done, and I'm amazed that someone can get up there. It seems impossible weight-wise that they can do that stuff.
Oh, it'll take the weight. There's no question that the beams, the beam strength and everything, all of that is there. What I still can't understand is how the guys can walk a 2-inch beam. Yeah. I've watched these guys do it.
Yeah,
it's a talent, it's an extreme talent. And I watched them walk the beams backwards telling jokes and stories as they're both rolling in the fabric and
Right.
putting in the spline and talking about something that has nothing to do with what they're doing, and the job is completed perfect.
Yeah, I would be holding on for dear life and not able to move. So,
I had a 2-story cage. I don't personally sell a lot of 2-story cages, and I sold this cage down in Apollo Beach many years ago. And I go by, it was a new construction house, and the installers were up top, way up top, and there was a new pool, no water in it. And they're asking me to come up, like they had to, I had to go up and answer a question. So I go all the way up. I'm afraid of heights.
Right.
And they grabbed me and they started to push me out towards the pool. They're holding on to me just to goof around.
Right.
And
That's
I
so
said
funny.
to myself, these guys have specific talent because they're 20 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Walking a 2-inch beam.
It's in your head. I'm sure they're comfortable up there. That's one thing. Football coaches are big on that. Jimmy Johnson used to put a 2x4 in the ground and have the whole team walk across it.
Yeah.
Now, if I put this up 20 feet in the air, how many of you could walk so casually across it without falling off?
Well, that's the thing. You have to look straight. You can't look down.
It's all about your mindset and how you see things. But again, having a great team, as Tampa Screens and Aluminum do, is that's who you want building your screen enclosure. We're going to come back with more from Fred. We got Connor coming in, and we're going to meet Dimitri, our intern. So don't go anywhere. You're going to see Behind the Curtain today on the Consumer Quarterback Show.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
All right, welcome back to the Consumer Quarterback Show with your host, Brandon Rhymes. As I mentioned earlier, Brandon is out today. You've got James DeJerome sitting in the chair today. We've assembled some longtime partners. I was just reminiscing with Fred Muth, Tampa Screens and Aluminum, about the show's humble beginnings, because I've only been around the show for about a year and a half, 2 years now. But the show has been going on for close to 6 years, I think, Fred.
Yeah, I believe that we got involved in 2015.
Okay, so the concept's always been the same. As a consumer advocacy program, we always want to try to assemble the best business owners and the best knowledge for you to empower you a little bit with your purchasing dollar out there. Fred's seen the show kind of grow from way back when. So we changed studios. He's been all over the place.
Yeah, the original studio was kind of comical. I guess that's called the engineering room.
Right.
So I got there early, and we go in the engineering room, and I brought a friend of mine in. He was considering going on the show and seeing what it was all about. And
Right.
they had Todd Schnitt on a podcast. And, they introduced myself and him to Todd. And Todd's a comical guy.
Right.
He's in New York. And, he says, hey, you look like Glenn Beck. Me. Do I look like Glenn Beck? I don't know. Then he was commenting on the other fellow that had his logo, his company logo on his shirt. And Todd was saying, where'd you eat lunch? You got lasagna all over your shirt. It was very comical.
Radio guys.
So... So yeah, originally with the show, the studio was a little different. It was down on Gandy,
right?
And you'd be in there, and you would see a lot of people that would walk by, very well-known names.
Sure.
And I can't think of it.
Right, personalities.
Yeah, personalities. Yeah. So we'd meet up with some of them.
So the show it's in a process of Brandon kind of getting out there and vetting different business owners and kind of attracting his team together.
Yeah.
And over the years, you've kind of seen different folks join the show.
That's right.
Fred actually finds folks for us. They listen to him on the radio and come in. They want to be like Fred.
Well, nobody wants to be exactly like me. Come on. I've asked around about that. No, not exactly.
But we have Fred DeFelice, a longtime partner, a great guy, comes on the show for us. Fred was our introduction there. So you're always keeping the show in mind. That's one of the things we love about Fred. He's an ambassador for the program.
Well, let's talk about Fred DeFelice. Fred and I go back about at least 18 years.
Oh, really?
And I sold his original cage, and Freddie, he's a very, very particular engineering mind guy.
Right.
He's a plumber.
Water Science US.
And boy, did he grill me, and I loved it. I kept saying, this is the kind of guy I like, because he grilled me about every nut and bolt and detail. And that's how
you know, right?
Yeah.
I remember you hear Fred on this program, and this is one of the things that, a point for all consumers out there. Man, ask questions over and over again. You're paying this person for a service. They're providing you this. They're supposed to do this for you.
Yeah, and Freddie's job was very unusual. So after we completed and did a very nice job, Freddie turned me over to about 3 or 4 of his other very well-known colleagues.
That's it. It's word of mouth. That's how you know you're getting in business with somebody you can trust. He's long time. You guys have been in the Bay 30 years.
Well, Tampa Screens. As far as I know, 1989, Richard, I believe, took over in 89, and prior to that, it was his dad. Okay, I didn't start out with Tampa Screens. I started out with another company named Artistic Aluminum, and our very friendly competitor was Tampa Screens.
Okay.
And sometime around 2010, the guys that owned Artistic decided to retire. So they looked at me one day. They said, I'm sure you're going to take all your business to Tampa Screens because they're excellent. I said, I've already got it in my mind.
Right.
And basically, nothing really changed. I just went over there. I took some of the people over with me, and it runs smooth. As much business as we have, and as complicated as construction can be, they have a method of keeping things running very smooth. And for me, being a consultant, salesman, designer, it makes my job a lot easier. We've got a girl in the office named Diana. I just don't know how she does it.
Right.
She keeps a lid on everything, and you can
Lots of details
to
keep track of.
Yes,
you talked about the permitting process a couple of times.
And boy, some of that's complicated. But I can ask her a question regarding a job that I sold 4 weeks ago. She can pop the answer out immediately, which is great. Then we have Virgil. He's a field measurement. He is what we call the construction manager. Him and I think alike. When I sell the job, he's on top of it after that. And if there's any question, he'll call me. He'll call me 4 times a day with a question. That's fine. That way, there's no guesswork.
Right. That's what you get with someone who's got a lot of experience in this industry. It's not just that they can respond rapidly to your problem. They have a network they can go to.
Correct.
So if you run into something unusual, a product you can't find, a design, they've got a kind of an array of knowledge out there. And that's exactly what the Consumer Quarterback Show is trying to do for you as a consumer. We want to provide that network that gives you the support you need when you're looking for an answer.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's the same thing with the guy that does our foundation work. I've worked with this guy since 1996, Bill Connor. And, he's tremendous. And he'll call me 6 times from a job site. he'll want to know if it's a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or 3/4 of an inch. And
now, it sounds insignificant, but Fred has mentioned on the show many times about the water and how you got to get it draining in the right direction or you're going to have yourself a problem.
That's right. The ground elevations are so important to anybody in this industry. A lot of my competitors that have not been around as long as myself and Chris, they don't pay so much attention to that.
Yeah.
And that's where the problems begin. I cannot sell a job, personally cannot sell a job, where I know there's going to be a problem with backup, water backup, into the room or around the room in the wrong way. I had one accidentally went sour 4 years ago, and it really wasn't Tampa Screen's fault,
right.
The contractor's fault, the homeowner's fault, or my fault. It had to do with the association not pulling out the back of the dirt as they were supposed to in time, and it was just a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart went out to that customer because they couldn't use their enclosure for about a year's time because of the mud and the muck.
Water and drainage is critical. I mean, just South Tampa last night, issues in the streets are narrow and they're just not ready to clear the water off them as fast as you can. So you better know where it's going to go because it's not going to leave that rapidly.
No, what's the elevation? 6, 8
Yeah.
feet above sea level? I mean, it's low. That's it. And when it comes down, it wants to go to the bay, either to the bay or elsewhere,
right.
Where else it can drain. And if you're caught in the crossfire between that, you have a saturated yard. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because South Tampa, they built the gullies in the highways to try to move it quick. Them gullies are not adequate to move that water quick.
No, it just happens so rapidly down there, they get overwhelmed. Yeah. Now, another thing you guys do with the aluminum, some of the newer products you have for a pergola, is that right? That was what Chris was talking about?
Yeah, it's the Renaissance product. We could possibly pull. There it is. This is what I call the evolution of the enclosure. Now, maybe 20 years ago, I sold something similar to this. I reluctantly sold it because it was nothing that I wanted to sell. The customer wanted this design. And it was a product that was all pieced together. And guys are out there, and the labor factor was tremendous because they're out there for 3 to 4 days to put something like this. Each piece had to be put together individual. This product here is many fewer moving parts, so to speak. Okay, and it's a much stronger product. It's a little more expensive than the standard screen room, no doubt about it. But it's got a great look. And I can do with this, I can do the same thing that I can do with any enclosure.
Now, one of the things Chris made a point of that I thought was cool is you see some of the bigger box stores starting to sell these kind of items at Home Depot or Lowe's, but it's not made from the same material.
No,
and
it's not.
The weather down here is a little different than everywhere else.
That's correct. This product is powder-coated aluminum. And, of course, we can get into all that. It's a different process for painting. The standard aluminum is what they call ESP painted, where the paint is charged either positively or negative. I can't think which way it was. And then the metal's charged the opposite, so that when they paint it with a liquid paint, it sticks.
Right.
So it's the same process with powder coating. However, it's not a liquid paint. It's an actual powder coat. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I'm not sure, Chris would probably know better than me, but I believe that the intensity of the positive and negative charge is different, which makes it stick better, and it gets into the metal, and it's more expensive process to manufacture that.
He said between the mildew and the insects, they will eat up one of those the box store products because they're not ready for the elements.
Well, the box store product, I'm sure, is the product that I reluctantly sold 20 years ago because somebody wanted it. So basically, the company that I represented, we found somebody who supplied it, and then we pulled the permit and built it and put it up, and it looked great. But it just, maybe 10 years later, I didn't see it. It's probably not there today, I'm assuming.
So this line that's come out, you guys have been doing, is it about a year or two, maybe something like that?
Well, Ricky, he's Richard's son. He sold the first one. I think he sold that 7-8 months ago, and it was installed about 4 or 5 months ago. And that's our first installation. However, we became a dealer, I would say, within the year. I'm not sure when that was. I got a call from the office one day. They wanted everybody to meet at this certain place and have a meeting about this new product. And that meeting was 40, 50 people there. From all over the state.
So this is a trend you see. One of these design trends that starts where people see it in the house and I got to have that, and then it trickles down, and pretty soon you guys figured it's our time to start making this thing.
Yeah, well, this product has been around for much longer than we've been a dealer, and it's done very well in the Miami-Dade area, down around Naples, Sarasota.
Okay.
It's not taken off as well in the Tampa Bay area yet. And I believe that has to do with the market. Okay. Our market's a little different here than it is in Sarasota or Naples. So I believe that's what it is. We're trying to nail that down because it is more expensive. Mm-hmm. It's more expensive. It's different material. Them uprights and the beams are actually a heavier gauge product than the standard product.
Okay. So we got about a minute left before we go to a break. Fred Muth, Tampa Screens and Aluminum, in addition to creating screen rooms and all these different designs and some of the stuff he can do, he can advise you on what to do with your current cage. If you've got an issue, you're worried about, should we take it down? Should we try to renovate? Should we replace? Yeah. That's a question you need to bring a pro in for.
Yeah, for sure. Right now we're talking about the hurricane season. It's here. It's coming up. And the preventative maintenance on a cage, real simple, I tell people, don't get too excited with anything other than cleaning out your super gutter.
Right.
Because
that water will back right up.
Water and debris that can back up can add 1,000, 1,500 pounds of that gutter. And make sure your fasteners, where this product is fastened to the foundation, make sure that's tight. They're the failure points, where it's connected to the house and where it's fastened to the foundation.
Solid advice for you from Fred Muth, Tampa Screens and Aluminum. Stay with us. We're coming back with Connor Keller, Insect IQ. We're going to get behind the scenes and meet Dimitri, our intern from the show. Stay with us. Consumer Quarterback Show.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show, hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right. ConsumerQB.com is your source for finding out all the different partners that you hear on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Again, I'm encouraging all you radio listeners on AM 1380 to check us out on the TV side. BingeNetworks.tv. Search the Consumer Quarterback Show, and you'll get a chance to watch your favorite TV show. All right, so in the first segment, we heard a lot from Fred Muth, Tampa Screens and Aluminum, all the different things he can do to make your house a little more palatable in the summer, chance for you to get out. And the reason you're building that screen room is because we got a lot of critters down here. We got all kinds of insects and bugs, huh, Fred?
Oh, yeah, we love them. How about you, Connor? You like them bugs?
I love bugs.
So joining us with his knowledge about how to keep your home a little bit safer is Connor Keller, Insect IQ. Connor's got all kinds of great stuff. Connor, you've just coming from something. What's going on?
I was up in Pasco County at a juvenile detention facility, and they had rats running all over the place, in the dormitory, in the kitchen. They basically were installing new video equipment, and in the process, they let the rats in, and they're there.
One rat becomes a bunch pretty fast.
Very quickly, very quickly. It's out of control, actually, so we're going to get in there tomorrow, clean up, get rid of the rats, clean everything up, and then keep them out.
So rats are something, I might think of that, but the ones, coyotes, bats, there's been, you get calls for all kinds of things.
We do. I basically, the stranger, the better. We're getting back into bat season now, which is, they're protected during the summertime because they're reproducing. So starting on August 15th, you can actually go back to doing something about it. So I have a lot of bat work on the slate to do in a couple of weeks.
You had that big deal in the church in St. Pete, was that one?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That actually was like everything in the kitchen sink. We had bees, we had pigeons, we had rats, we had German roaches.
And a tough situation as far as the property goes. It was a kind of historic thing. You can't just tear it up.
That's correct. We ended up cutting the roof, opening the roof up, pulling the bees out, and then had a roofer there to repair it. Actually, I think we used a partner on the show.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Now, you're able to keep those bees alive. You take them to another place or relocate them.
Yeah, actually, we have a rescue in Odessa at the Keystone Farmers Market. It's on Tarpon Springs Road on your way out to Tarpon Springs. And we have about a dozen colonies there that we've relocated. What most people don't realize is when you relocate bees, you're actually trying to capture as many of the workers as possible, and then maybe some comb out of the nesting material. And you take those and start a new colony with that. You requeen them. So you're not actually taking that colony and relocating it to another area. You're taking the majority of it and making a new colony out of it.
When I hear people talk about the importance of bees and keeping an eye on their population as kind of a way to see how our environment is behaving.
Well, I mean, we need bees, especially for our commercial agriculture, but most people don't realize that the honeybees are an invasive species. We brought honeybees from Europe with us. They're actually the most successful invasive species ever introduced to North America. So they're really no different than the boa constrictor or pythons in the Everglades.
Right.
They're just beneficial where the pythons are detrimental.
Well, the one thing I think is we get some honey out of them, whereas the yellow jackets and some of the wasps will just leave a sting on you.
Yeah, yellow jackets are actually a beneficial insect as well. They, of course, they'll sting you, and they're very angry and very defensive of their nest site, but they prey on or forage for turf and plant damaging insects. So your aphids, your lace bugs, all of these things that will damage your ornamental landscape, yellow jackets are actually helping you defend from that damage naturally.
Now, you guys listen to the show. You know that Brandon is heavy on the real estate side, and one of the things you better be careful of if you're getting into the real estate business or any kind of home is termites, because I saw the stat where termites do more damage to homes than all the natural disasters combined.
Correct, and your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover termite damage or treating for the activity.
Not just that, a lot of these companies come out and just put a bait station there by your house and say, well, but that's not protecting your home in any way.
Well, when you say bait is a very general term, and at Insect IQ, we actually offer both types of treatments. We do a conventional liquid treatment with a product called Termidor. It's a non-repellent barrier. We also provide, we're a Centricon provider. It's a Centricon termite colony elimination system. It's really the premier baiting system on the market these days.
Something a little newer.
Yeah, well, what really sets it apart from its competition, it's always active, has a bait matrix in the station that's not only monitoring for termites, but once they find it and start consuming it, they're actually bringing that termiticide back to the colony, and it eliminates the colony. Much the same mode of action as Termidor. The other benefit of it, it's the only green certified termiticide on the market by the Environmental Protection Agency. You basically could put it anywhere. So you can put
Kids,
it near
pets.
water. Yeah, if a kid pulled a station out and chewed on it for some reason, there would be no. I mean, there's always worry about allergic reactions and things like that.
But as far as toxicity,
the toxicity is very low toxicity to humans.
I tell you, it's not just the bugs I always think about, but I drive around at night sometimes and I see these coyotes, and I wonder how long till there's some kind of an incident where a human interaction where we cross paths.
Every day. I think a couple months ago, a lady was walking her dog in the morning, and the coyote attacked the dog, and she tried to save her dog, and the coyotes attacked her, and I think she didn't lose her life, but she was in the hospital. She got mauled pretty bad by.
Now, I always think of those things as being kind of skittish, or they don't really want it to be around. You know, they're kind of at night and kind of hiding out.
I have personal experience with coyotes, actually. I live in Brandon, and right in the middle of Brandon, urban center, and I get up in the morning sometimes. I haven't seen them in about 6 months, but I'll have 2 or 3 coyotes in my front yard.
Now they're foraging for something to eat, or
they're foraging for the neighborhood cats. I actually have seen them kill a cat and drag it off, and I jumped in my truck and tried to run them down just to see where they were going. And Brandon's unique because you still have all these subdivisions wrapped around farms. Still, you have this pasture, and they ran out into that, and then I lost them, but. I've seen them maybe a half dozen times in the last year or so.
Man, that's the thing about Florida. You are in and among all kinds of different critters. If you're not aware of it, they're there.
Bobcats.
Sure.
I've even seen a panther recently, which is pretty cool. I only caught the glimpse. I knew it was a panther because of its tail, but a big cat. And I was up in New Tampa. You know, it's not in their normal range, but they were all here long before us.
Yeah, I just saw this article in the paper about alligators prefer to eat local men.
So that's funny. That's an example where conservation actually is not detrimental, but we're being overrun with alligators now. That's why they've opened up these hunting seasons, and they were protected for so long, but they've protected so well that now we're overpopulated.
As Fred and I were talking about, I mean, if there's a body of water in this state, golf course, school, there's an alligator.
Show me water and I'll show you an alligator.
Stay away.
So when I was about 8 years old, I grew up in Florida. I used to fish on the golf course, and there was about a 2-foot gator swimming around, and it grabbed my rattle trap. Of course, I hooked it, but I reeled it all the way in the shore. I was 8 or 9 years old. I picked up an old rotten pine log, was beating it over the head, trying to get my $5 lure back, and didn't know better, but the line broke and it went back in the water. So.
And then every couple of weeks you see a new record python gets pulled out of South Florida or somewhere, 18 feet, some crazy. What is that thing living on?
Everything in the Everglades, actually. They're consuming all our native animals, the deer. I mean, they say now the Everglades is quiet. You don't hear deer, you don't hear other mammals because they've all been consumed by the pythons.
Holy cow.
There's a show on now. I don't know if you've seen that on, I think it's on History or National Geographic Channel about that, where they're hunters hunting pythons. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, but are you just poking around in some muddy water?
They do it at night. They do it at night, and they use there's the new technology I've seen is they're using like a forward-looking infrared camera, but the python, they're cold-blooded, so they're not really showing up on that, but they found a light spectrum that they can see now, so they use a camera and some type of ultraviolet light and shine it around, and then the snake stands out. And it's a spectrum. That just shows you the science behind it.
I'm sure an 18-foot snake could kill a man.
Easily. Actually, it was funny. This guy, he jumped on the snake, and it was as big around as him, and he's battling and battling. I wonder how much of it is staged. But eventually, the snake gets around his neck, and he's like, the cameraman, he's like, you got to get the snake off my neck. And he was choking out, and then so the camera drops, and you hear him fighting the snake. No, thank you. So,
I think an alligator would lose a battle.
Well, you see that, too. You see pythons and alligators all the time. Not personally, but in the paper or on the internet.
Crossing paths.
Yeah, well, or a python swallowed an alligator, and the alligator bust out of the python's gut because it's just too big.
I got a buddy who's a guide down in the Keys, and he sees alligators get washed out, and they're in the ocean
all the time.
A mile offshore.
I grew up, like I said, in Orlando, going to Cocoa Beach and Merritt Island and the Canaveral seashore, and we saw alligators on the beach all the time over there. They can go in fresh and salt water,
and they're pretty hardy. They can range pretty far and survive quite a few rough conditions.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they travel even in the stormwater system and move from pond to pond. You know, I've often wondered how alligators show up in a retention pond with a 6-foot fence around it. Now they can climb fences too, though. I've seen that.
I always think it's pet owners, who bought an alligator on their way to Florida or somewhere, and they get home and they have nothing to do with it.
That's the python situation. That's really what happened is, pythons were the rage, and they get big. Like you said, 15, 16-foot snake, what are you going to do with that? Or hopefully it doesn't eat your baby, but that happens too, but then they let it go.
There was a story recently about a guy who had to call a gator wrangler from Florida up north. Someone, must have been a pet, got loose in the summer. It was Chicago or someplace of all places. Yeah.
Interesting.
They got an alligator swimming around in a public park somewhere, and no one really knew what to do with it. They had to give you a call down here to get up there.
Yeah, I always say that I never would be a gator trapper because I enjoy my fingers, and a good gator trapper is missing at least one or two fingers. So no, thank you.
But you're dealing with enough for me. I mean, how many times have you been stung, Colin?
I get stung every day. Just goes with the job. I've built up an immunity to getting stung because I get stung so much. And don't get me wrong, it still hurts.
Right.
As soon as I get the stinger out, I have no adverse reaction, no swelling. But this is an important point. Is it only takes one sting to kill you if you're allergic to stinging insects. So if you're working in Florida, outside, even on your own property, you should be vigilant and look for flying insects.
But the ants down here are no joke either.
Oh, fire ants will mess you up.
Yeah, I've seen a kid going to anaphylactic shot, playing ball, fell and rolled around all over his back.
It's all the same venom. It's just different degrees.
Connor Keller, Insect IQ. So much knowledge for you. So many things out here that you don't know about if you live in Florida. You better find out what's swimming around, what's crawling around. We'll come back. We got a feel-good story for you. We're going to get more from the guys, and then we're going to meet Dimitri, our intern here. So stay tuned. You want to see behind the scenes here. Consumer Quarterback Show.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
All right, last segment here of the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to tell you something good like we always do. We're going to go back and have Connor Keller from Insect IQ and Fred Muth from Tampa Screens and Aluminum give you some final points that help make you make a better decision out there if you need their assistance. But when it comes to telling you something good, I found a kid who did an amazing act, and I wanted to mention this and let you know about him. He's a teenager in Georgia. He's being a hero because of his quick thinking. He managed to save the lives of 14 Clydesdale horses. So the Martin family's home was struck by lightning in the middle of the night. So we have a lot of lightning down here, and I always think about, what are you going to do if your house gets struck by lightning? Well, they caught fire. It shook the whole house, Shannon Martin told the local news station. 1 minute I'm in bed, the next minute I'm standing next to the bed trying to figure out what happened. Soon after, fire quickly engulfed their horse barn. To make matters worse, the barn doors were locked. That's when 16-year-old Macon rushed into action. I just ran right out. I had no clothes on, no shoes, no nothing, Macon said. I just jumped in our gator and I just ran it right into the door. He busted through like Rambo and opened up the end of the stalls and said, "Mom, this way," Shannon recalled. And we were able to push all the horses out that way. All 14 horses made it out of the barn, which was a total loss. So there's a story about a kid who saved his family's horses, just being brave and running out there. Encourage people you know that do heroic things. That's what we're trying to do here on the show. Mention it. Let us know about it. We'll certainly give them some props on the air because that's the kind of thing we want to recognize. Have you ever saved any horses, Colin?
No. Actually, but, I tell a story about a horse because horses and stinging insects don't mix.
Flies, I know.
No, I'm talking about the Africanized honeybees attacked a horse in South Florida, and when they did what is it called, a necropsy, I think, on a horse. It's an autopsy, basically, for an animal. They found bees in its sinus cavities, its throat, and in its stomach. So that's actually, they're attracted to your carbon dioxide output when they attack you and alarm pheromones. Right. But they'll sting you in your lips and your ears.
I've heard that some mosquitoes are tracking you as well.
Exactly, yes. And body heat, the same thing.
Okay, so we had Fred reminisce a little bit earlier in the show about the early days of the program, and he told you a little bit about how it started. And, of course, I've been here about 2 years. How long have you been on the show here, Dimitri?
I've been here about 2-3 months now.
Okay, so Dimitri's an intern, and I always get a kick out of the millennial point of view or the younger folks and find out what they're up to and what they're doing. So one of the things that's come up on the show lately is college. With the scandal with the folks that paid to get their kids into college, a lot of people are saying, why even bother? You know, if it's going to be something you have to pay to get the kid in college, is college really the way to go today? And I wanted to ask young people, Dimitri, you got friends. How many of you guys thought about trade school, secondary college, or found another way to get around that thing?
Well, I'm one of the people that went into a trade school. I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting down here in Tampa, and honestly, why I went to a trade school is just because I just want to learn what I want to learn. Because I know I enjoy the radio business, all that stuff. And I was like, I'd rather pay $200, $300 for a math class that I'm probably not going to use later in my life.
The student debt is no joke. These kids are racking up thousands and $100,000 debt when they graduate from school, and there's no guaranteed ROI there. You may work for 10 years before you get that loan paid off.
Absolutely.
So how many friends of yours chose the college route, or how many of them had a scholarship or an opportunity?
Actually, all 5 of my friends all got scholarships, but not full scholarships, not full rides. A lot of them have to do loans. My buddy Donnie, he works with his father throughout the summer, so his father will pay for the school as he earns it. My friend Lindsay, she does a work study. She helps people tutoring and stuff like that just to make ends meet and to pay those loan payments.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's kind of something to consider nowadays because the cost of education is significant and you've got some other choices. So you want to make a right decision. You don't want to just get degrees. In the old days, it was about how many degrees you had on the wall you could point to and say, I've achieved this. It's about being productive now. So you've got to find a way to get productivity out of your money. So if you're spending that money on that degree, it's got to work for you. Now, tell me a little bit about the show now. You've been on the show for 2 months.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we talk about consumer advocacy and learning some things. I need you to tell me something you've learned from watching or listening to the program that you didn't know before you came on board here.
How much work actually goes into planning the program and all that stuff, having to set up all this stuff.
Right.
I remember walking in, James was like, all right, I need you to go to this closet, grab this,
Yeah, no, it was baptism by fire.
I was like, what?
I finally got somebody to help. I put him right on. Here's the closet, here's the key, go. But, we appreciate your help. You're doing a great job for us, man.
I like being here now, yeah.
Awesome. So that's Dimitri, our intern. I wanted you to meet him and to give everyone else a chance. We talk about Mike back there for Salem and Rob from WeBeam. So there's a lot of folks behind the scenes that make the show go. Fred, any experiences I forget to mention or anything you want to talk about the show itself, something that you've had experience-wise?
No, the only thing on my end, people say, did you prep for the show? I go, no. Well, why not? If I did, I'd stutter. If I had to think about what I was thinking about, it wouldn't work. But and I talked to a lot of people in the break room prior to their first time on the show, and they'll say they're trying to prep for it. They're nervous. And I say, just don't prep for it. Just get up there and talk about your business.
I think that's the thing. You're passionate about your business, and you want to help people. That's the whole idea. I mean, Connor's got all these stories, and I want to hear them. You know what I mean? I want to learn what's going on. I think it's really neat, all the different stories he has. But if you've got an issue, if you've got a raccoon living in your attic or whatever it is, you better find somebody you can trust, or they're going to do some real damage.
I just want to help people. That's what motivates me more than anything, and I think that's what what really makes us human beings is the thought or process of helping your neighbor. If they're going to pay me $1 or $2 in the process, then hey, all the better. But it's really about helping people and taking care of people. We offer free estimates, usually same-day appointments, and really whatever's bugging you is bugging me, and I'll come right out and take care of it.
And that's important. Now, are you guys also raising honey, or do you have something to do with honey? What is it again?
Well, I give away honey for marketing purposes. I have little 1-ounce honey bears that I'll give out to my customers, and especially if I mess up, I like to leave a little sweet taste in their mouth. So leaving some honey, and it usually fixes everything. So.
All right, Fred, what is the latest? Brandon built this house. He's always talking about he's got bugs out there. What is he?
So he lives on a lake,
right?
And off the lake is a little drainage canal that has a lot of aquatic weeds in it. I don't think the county's spraying anything. We've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. So he's constantly getting flying insects all over the back of his house. He's got a white house, lots of lights, and it's just perfect environment.
Gotcha.
The mosquitoes are the biggest problem, obviously, and we can treat the mosquitoes. We treat the water with larvicides to eliminate the eggs from hatching out, and then we treat the perimeter of the house and the perimeter of the property with a mister blower and encapsulated insecticide. And it's encapsulated so the sun and water doesn't break it down as quickly. But it really makes a difference in eliminating the harbor areas where mosquitoes will hide during the day.
You know, we get so much rain, that standing water.
Right.
It's a big one. They say 48 hours, it's all it takes.
There's dozens of different species of mosquitoes. Some are daytime biters, some are dusk and dawn. The Aedes aegypti, which are the mosquitoes that vectored, not dengue fever, but the Zika virus everybody was worried about last year. They are daytime biters and container breeders. So those are the ones you have to really be careful on. Leaving flower pots in the yard, tires, anything that will collect water, you should check. And
now, luckily, none of those can fit through the screen, right, Fred?
No, and there's two fabrics available. There's what they call the standard 1814, which is 18 weaves in one direction, 14 in another, within 1 inch. And then there's what they call the Noceum 2020 fabric.
Really tight.
It's extremely tight. However, there's nothing that can really guarantee against noceums, because noceums are basically microscopic in some cases. They can possibly even get through the noceum fabric. So I don't go out there and solicit noceum fabric for that reason, because in the industry, the most bug-resistant product nationwide is an 1814 fabric. They use it on all your window screens. So, for example, the 2020 Noceum, I will sell that for the roof only in a lot of cases, because it's very good for ultraviolet reduction. I think it's like a 26, 27, 28% reduction on the UV.
Plants love that.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt really quick about this. They're now infusing insulation with insecticides to help treat. Have you ever heard anything like that, Fred, where they've talked about infusing screen fabric with insecticides?
No. Keep me up to date on that.
No, let's do something.
Yeah.
We could retire,
right? Retire. I am retired. I do this for fun.
But you better have some screens, or you're going to get bit. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
The mosquitoes don't take very long to reproduce. They're back in a hurry, and we're in Florida, so it's amazing.
They never leave, really.
During the Zika thing, maybe it was at its height, maybe a year or two ago. After Dade County instituted these sprays, they came out and did a lot of the spraying. The mayor of Dade County stood up and said, "We can guarantee that Dade County is mosquito-free." I thought, come on now.
Maybe for a couple minutes.
Yeah, how is it any place in America mosquito-free?
Is he a politician?
Yeah. Oh. Nail on the head.
Yeah, I'm telling you. That's not effective. Is that effective? Tell me,
Okay, so the county and state does adulticide, thermal fogging, and they go around fogging. You see them on the trucks and flying over in helicopters and planes, and they're trying to knock down the adult reproducing population. What's more effective, actually, is what they're doing is biological control, where we're using sterilization, and that sterilization is transferable. So you have generations of mosquitoes that are no longer able to produce. It's very effective.
Yeah, that makes even more sense than the bats, which I've heard are great. Can be effective.
That's the new technology now that's very effective.
So what's the application process? How do you get that?
They're traps, and the traps are very expensive, but it's something that you can work into a mosquito abatement program. You put them out in mosquito-infested areas. The females go in. Excuse me.
Right.
Sorry. I'm not trying to cough on the show. The mosquito females go in, lay their eggs, and when they lay their eggs, they're picking up that growth regulator that sterilizes them, and so the eggs don't hatch. They're not able to lay any more eggs. But when they fly to the next spot that they go to, they vector from place to place. They're bringing molecules of that product that actually causes that.
There's technology for you, from a fly swatter to a product that actually
the sterilization is the key.
Amazing. All right, so this is the last minute of the show. I want to give everyone a chance just to say their quick site. Tampa Screens, right, Fred? What's your site?
www.tampascreensandaluminum.com.
Don't be afraid to give Fred a call. He's got great ideas. He'll come out and give you an estimate, right?
That's correct.
And Connor?
Well, we have two. We have allfloridabeeremoval.com, and that's our statewide website for stinging insect removals. And then locally here in the Tampa Bay area, we have insectiq.com, which is really a statewide site as well. Both will get you to where you need to be. You can also call us directly at 855-930-BUGS.
There you go, folks. Don't get stung. Call Connor. Call Fred. Find out how to protect yourself from all these bugs out here. This has been a great show. Thanks so much for listening. You got a little peek behind the curtain today. I'm so happy that Brandon lets me do this. So thanks, Brandon, and thanks for the Consumer Quarterback Show and all the partners out there. Stay with us and check us out online.
You've been listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on AM 1380.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 1025 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.